Before we dive into the show, if you're looking to make some picks on the NFL playoffs, check out Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em game. You just choose higher or lower between 2 to 8 players, and you can win up to 1,000 times your entry. If you click the link in the description and use code RULE, you'll get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. We'll be using Underdog to make some picks throughout the rest of the NFL playoffs, so thank you to them. And they have plenty of other sports on tap as well. So click the link in the description, use our code RULE, and get up to $1,000 bonus cash and a free pick.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Payton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Monday, January 27th, and Mizzou is back on track on the men's basketball front. Tigers pick up an 83-75 win, a ranked win over Ole Miss, and this was a big one for me. You head into this off week now for Mizzou. They get to rest easy before they play the other Mississippi team down in Stark Vegas. And, are going into that game with a 5-2 record in SEC play. It has been a blinder of a start for Missouri. And I'm gonna do the anti-journalism thing, and I'm gonna start at the beginning for this game, which I know you're not supposed to do when you're writing articles, as we're all taught. But I'm gonna do it because
inverted pyramid, Knowlton. Come on.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not living up to the inverted pyramid. But I want to start at the beginning of this game, Payton and Kenny, and get right into it because Mizzou, to me, it's a lot of games this year, with Texas being one exception for sure, has started off games really fast, and I think that's helped them set the tone in a lot of games. We didn't see that for the first couple minutes in this game. Ole Miss goes up 8-0, and you think, oh boy, how is this going to go? They kind of got everything they wanted, hit a three, had a dunk in transition, and we're kind of running it up on Mizzou in the first couple minutes. Then Mizzou just goes on a 12-0 run. I believe Ole Miss tied it at 14 and then never led again for the rest of the game. And that kind of, I know I've talked about it with Payton. There's a stat out there called the kill shot, which I am a big fan of. It's my favorite stat in college basketball, and it measures those 10-0 runs or more that flip momentum of games. And that's exactly what happened to me, you guys, is Mizzou goes on this 12-0 run right at the beginning. They're able to completely reverse the tone and just control things the rest of the way. How big was that? And what did you see kind of in those opening few minutes, just the response to going down, and then, not only responding, but responding so well and so quickly to just get back in the game and just take over from there?
Yeah, right you are, Jack. It was actually a pretty great come from behind win for Missouri. They fought back after falling behind by 8 points early. But no, you're 100% right. I mean, Missouri, when I sent you that graph that one time, they're a borderline elite team at not giving up 10-0 runs because the defense is much improved. And they're able to kind of score at least a bucket or two in those stretches to keep it from getting out of hand. But, just when Caleb Grill, or in this game as well, Tamar Bates get in a groove, it's just really hard to keep this offense under wraps. And you saw it. Like you said, they go on that 12-0 run to answer the 8-0 run, and it was kind of off to the races from there. It was almost a wire-to-wire lead for Missouri. They very briefly fell behind 14-12, but that didn't really wind up mattering because after that, Missouri never looked back. Like you said, really, really great win. It's why I really, unlike I normally do, I didn't freak out after that Texas loss. It was just a tough road game that Missouri wasn't even favored in. I really didn't think that. I don't think this is the type of thing that's going to let a loss build into something more than it was, which was just a tough shooting night, a tough night on the glass down in Austin. I think Tamar even had a quote about not letting the Texas game beat them twice or something like that, which is a great quote, and it totally showed for them. Tamar Bates and Caleb Grill kind of pretty much carried the load themselves, with 26 points from Tamar, 25 from Grill. No one else even reached double figures. but they didn't need it. I mean, it was a comfortable victory. Missouri, the most jaw-dropping stat to me, and I know Missouri fans were a little frustrated with officiating for some reason. Mizzou got to the line for 39 free throw attempts. Ole Miss had 18 free throw attempts in this one. I mean, that is just a jaw-dropping difference. I know Ole Miss is like near bottom, if not complete bottom of the conference in free throw rate, and Missouri is obviously near the top. But that is still just a staggering difference. And I think it really kind of helped pull away, help them just never even come close to falling behind in the second half.
I want to start there too with the free throws. I mean, it wasn't the most efficient night from the free throw line. I think that number, it's 72% from the line, is very weighted by like the last 10 minutes. They had like 8 or 9 misses in the second half in the first 10 minutes, first 12 minutes. So it was still kind of a frustrating night, and maybe that's a little bit weighted on Josh Gray, and you're not expecting your center to make a lot from the line. He had 4 opportunities to make 2 free throws and missed all 4 because he drew 2 lane violations from the same guy. But still, is a center, big man. You're not expecting him to make it all the time. It is still an area I believe that there needs to be more improvement on. You got a little bit lucky just that those didn't really come back to bite you. But at the end of the game, you did sink a lot more, and that's when it mattered the most and helped keep their lead. I want to go back just to that defense early on and 2 big early threes from Ole Miss, and I think you give Ole Miss credit. Like one of those was a pretty deep 3, and the other one just was like a hand in the face and just drained it. And I think from starting like from there, Mizzou was just like clogging every lane. 12 steals in this game. Most of those came in the first half. Multiple guys with more than 2 steals. That's just been a big thing that, how is that going to translate to SEC play? Not even a thing we need to bring up anymore. Like it's just the defense has been great on that front. 2 blocks, we mentioned that before too. You're not going to expect that, too much from some of these guys, but very strong defense in that regard. And I think once the points started falling, it felt like early on in that back corner, right next to the Ole Miss bench, it was just automatic for like Caleb Grill, Tamar Bates. A lot of the guys were just kind of sitting
Robinson
there.
made one there too.
Anthony Robinson made one. Everyone was sinking threes just from that corner. Just a very strong performance in just as a 3-point shooting team at that point, shooting 44% in this game. And the only guy to do double-digit threes, of course, was Caleb Grill, who went 6 for 10. My last like big thing, takeaway, we were talking about Tamar Bates again. He had, back-to-back Saturdays at home. And in that game a week ago, it was like full throttle like he was in the first half. And he got to the second half and kind of let up, was a little bit more conservative, not taking as many shots. 14 points. I mean, he outscored himself in the second half. And I think that was massive for Tamar Bates. You've seen this before. Mark Mitchell probably didn't have, his best game, 6 points in this one, and really didn't take too many shots, only 3 from the field. But you have a guy that can just take over. And I think that was massive for Tamar, especially in the last 10 minutes. I mean, that's where he got a lot of his money as well. But 14 points in that second half, 4 for 7 from the field, 2 for 3. I mean, it was pretty efficient, pretty much mirrored himself in that first half. And I think that's what just contributed to such a, full control of this game against Mississippi, and really didn't let Mississippi get back into it in that second half, was because of Tamar. And you lump Caleb Grill in there as well, 25 points off the bench. That's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a game you needed your scorers to step up, and that's what Mizzou got out of Tamar Bates and Caleb Grill. And Payton, I'll kind of follow up with you with this. I mean, just in general with the offense. I mean, Ole Miss, this was a team, we talked about it before the show, or before the game when we previewed it. They're a good defensive team as well. They had 10 steals themselves. Missouri actually had 16 turnovers to Ole Miss's 13. Yet it still felt like when you compare it to Texas just earlier, last week, it felt like the offense was flowing a lot more. The ball wasn't sticking. I liked what I saw from a lot of the ball movement. And like Kenny just alluded to, you got the ball in the hands of your stars. They were able to go get buckets. What differences did you notice offensively from those 2 games? And Mizzou was able to still, I guess have success, even though they turned it over a lot, still have success scoring against Ole Miss, which we didn't see. Texas kind of took that away from them last time.
Well, I mean, like Kenny kind of talks about, I mean, Tamar just kind of went out there and said, all right, I'm going to be the guy tonight. I mean, that second half, it wasn't even just that he one-upped himself. I mean, the shots he made, I mean, he closed the game. That just, ISO ball three. I think it was Padula on him. Maybe I'm wrong, but he just dribbled between his legs a couple times, just pulled back for three. I mean, it got the lead back to double digits. It really, to me, was just Tamar Bates went out there and was an absolute dog. He just made life hell for them. And I mean, also Caleb Grill was just able to get to his spots. I think Missouri did a lot better job creating open looks for him. He had a couple nice catch and shoots. I mean, Kenny alluded to it. I mean, he was just automatic from the corner. Each side, I mean, he was just not missing from there. I thought they did a great job of getting him some shots. It felt like every time Ole Miss had a couple moments in the second half where they were able to cut the lead down to like 4 or 5. Ole Miss was making me mad because some of their makes were just so tough. I mean, they were just good buckets. I mean, it was just like a matter of not really being able to do much with it. But it felt like every time they did, Caleb Grill would just nail like a 3 from the wing or just a 3 from the corner just to keep them kind of still at arm's length. That's just something this team has been so good about, is just the offense, even like in their kind of lulls, it feels like every time they need a big bucket, they get it from somewhere. Comparatively to Texas, I just think they did a lot better against against man defense in particular. I mean, they had no answer for Texas, and credit to Texas because they played that game like their season depended on it. And they came out with the win in their own building. I just thought Missouri did a great job of creating open looks, for the most part, not forcing shots. I think Mark Mitchell actually showed quite a bit of maturity only taking 3 shots, because a guy like him coming from Duke, there is kind of that like, all right, I got to get mine sometimes. But he was he just deferred to other guys in this game. I mean, I think it was Ant Robinson's only made shot of this game came off an excellent pass from Mark Mitchell, where Mark Mitchell faked a 3-pointer, got 2 guys to jump at him, created the open look. So I just think the offense was much more just smarter, really, more than anything else, and they just did a better job of creating open looks for guys.
Okay, you alluded to it. Oh, Kenny, I'm gonna. I want you to weigh in here too, but Payton alluded to it because I wanted to ask both of you. I was going to do it in a little bit more of a dramatic way. Your concern level with Mark Mitchell after kind of being limited these last 2 games, but Payton kind of already answered it. What were your, obviously, give your point as well, but what were your thoughts on Mark's game and just his role the last 2 games? Obviously, a win's a win, but a guy you're still wanting to look more from. But what do you think of his game on Saturday?
Yeah, I think that kind of just speaks to the culture of Dennis Gates. And you see these guys, like maybe there's like worry sometimes, oh, a freshman's not playing much. You're not seeing much development. Is he going to, enter the transfer portal? Is he really enjoying what he's seeing here and what he's promised? And you see that maybe with guys that are a little bit older too, like experienced ones like Mark Mitchell. But then you see like after the game and when they're doing like the interviews on the court and they all come up and they do the shushing thing, because they don't want to believe like what the media believes in them and what all these ratings say. And I think it just kind of shows you how tight knit they are and how much like there is no like, there's no egos and there's not this one guy that, wants the ball every single game or is going to get frustrated when he doesn't lead the team in scoring. And I think it just kind of speaks to what kind of Dennis Gates has preached to these guys. No one's bigger than another person. You all have your roles and you kind of fill that role depending on who you're playing and what the games are. And that goes back like even 2 years ago. The game that always comes to mind is Wichita State and Kobe Brown and him kind of just taking himself out, realizing that, he wasn't the guy for that game. And I think it's just something that's kind of grown a lot. And this is probably the year that you've seen it the tightest in that group. And I think that kind of just speaks to Mark Mitchell as well. I've heard him speak before just after a game in a post-game press conference and on the court as well. And I think that just kind of fits who he is as a person. And I think that's just a kind of a massive thing when you get a guy as a Duke 4-star, 5-star, depending on who says, and still can kind of recognize, he is one of the best players on the team. But if it's not his night, it's someone else's night, he's going to let that person have it.
Yeah, I think he's been massive. I think you guys make some good points, and there are going to be games. I was looking, just even at the schedule going forward, there are going to be some games where they're going to need Mark Mitchell and Mark Mitchell's ability to score. I think he can really hurt some teams. We've already seen it, but yeah, there's just and with him, not only him, but just kind of some of these post guys in general. There's just so many outlets. I know the free throw shooting wasn't great, like you said, Kenny, but it is just nice to like Payton said, Ole Miss cut this game to 8 to single digits, and to be able to kind of just dump it inside and let Mark Mitchell go at least draw a foul, or let Josh Gray draw a foul and just get to the line, even if you only split the free throws. I just feel like they didn't have that outlet last year. I know Noah Carter operating as your center is not going to lead to too much success, but it is nice to just have that outlet. And I think you guys are right. Mark Mitchell will be fine. I think the guys who needed the ball got it. I think Payton made some good points. I thought we talked pregame about, Ole Miss likes to switch everything and they move really fast on defense, and they did a good job forcing turnovers, but I thought Missouri just kind of in their ball movement almost just was a little faster than some of those switches. I think that's why you saw some of those open corner looks and guys getting open for three. I think that contributed to that a lot. And obviously Caleb Grill made them. Need to see Jacob Cruz make a couple of them as well. I thought he had a deep three in this game, but maybe that was somebody else because he only had 2 points. But yeah, I liked what I saw offensively. The other thing I wanted to point out, feel free to weigh in here too, against Texas, I know I at least was ripping into them for kind of the struggles on the glass. I know Ole Miss isn't the biggest team. I warned, by the way, I was right about Malik Dia, 17 points, 8 rebounds. That guy's good. But Mizzou only 5 offensive rebounds allowed, won the rebounding battle. I also thought that was really, really huge Saturday. If y'all agree, and any other factors from the game you want to shout out.
Yeah, Payton, I'll jump in real quick just about the rebounding as well. Dennis Gates brought it up in the post-game press conference, kind of giving flowers to Coach Kyle Smith-Peters and Ryan Sharbaugh for, kind of helping improve the rebounding. And, having 11 more rebounds than your opponent is not really something you see from Mizzou, especially at this point in the season. They came in, the broadcast said this, 14th in rebounds this year in the SEC. So it's not, the best spot, but the team is still performing really well. But it is definitely something that they're, identifying that they need to improve on. And you talked about defense as well with Ryan Sharbaugh. So it's always kind of cool when he opens the door behind to some of these guys on staff that are actually contributing to a lot of these positive changes.
Yeah, and like you kind of mentioned there, Knowlton, plus 11 on the glass, that's just something we're not really used to. And look, Ole Miss is a bad rebounding team. They don't really have a true big. I think they're probably most true big is John Ball.
It is.
Who a lot of Mizzou fans are going to remember, and he's just not really SEC ready right now. But just looking at who got these boards, that's Ant Robinson with 7. Tamar with 5. Trent Pierce with 6. Tony Perkins with 5. Those are really nice numbers to see. Caleb Grill with 5. That's not a shock. But you're plus 11 with Josh Gray only pulling in 3. Josh Gray has been excellent on the boards this year. That's a really, really good step. That just means Missouri's guards, they were the ones that were kind of winning the battle down there. And there's good players on that Ole Miss backcourt. You have guys like Jamin Brakefield, Matt Morrell, Padula. Those are all very experienced high major players. But Missouri was just kind of beating the brakes off them rebounding wise. And I think that's a big reason they've been so much better this year as well. It's not like they're all of a sudden some supremely great rebounding team, but they're a more average rebounding team. And that helps a lot when you're also playing defense the way Missouri is. And the offense is also just has so many pieces you have to worry about.
Yeah.
Throw out there as well, the Tamar Bates 5 rebounds all came in the second half too, and I think that kind of contributes to what you were saying, Payton, earlier about he kind of kept the foot on the gas and really kind of just, took over the game too near the end, and I think that kind of contributes to him just being all over the place and being the guy that just kind of sealed it for Mizzou.
It's representative of effort, I think, with this team because, like you said, they're not the biggest team in the world. They're not ever going to out-rebound teams like Texas A&M who grab, the most offensive boards in the country. But when you see those numbers from guys like Bates and the guards, I think, like Payton said, it is a microcosm of the effort you see on defense. These guys want to crash the boards. They want to be first to those misses. And, rebounding can just be an effort thing. You don't need to have 3 7-footers on the court at all the time and to grab all the rebounds. But if you have guards willing to scrap and willing to get into the paint, prevent those second chances, Ole Miss is a pretty bad rebounding team, but you still got to stop them. and I'm glad Mizzou was able to do that and enforce their kind of will in the paint, especially with some of those guards crashing. So I thought that was really good.
I'll add.
Fun.
I'll throw something in there too about
Yeah.
that. Dennis Gates was asked about after the game because it was Norm Stewart night. His birthday was on Monday, so they celebrated it on Saturday at the game. And one of the big things, like people ask him just about after the game, just about Norm Stewart. And someone asked, like, what do you think Norm would have liked from this game? And Dennis was like, well, he kind of picks me apart every time we talk. He's really real about it. He was kind of laughing about it. But he said that one of the biggest things, like you remove all the stats, Mizzou won in physicality. And I think that's one of like the biggest things that Norm just loved about basketball and coaching basketball was just, guys being physical, laying it out on the line for the full 40 minutes. And I think that was like goes right into what you were saying, Jack. I mean, you don't have the biggest guys out there that are going to pick up all these rebounds. But these guys have high motors, and I think that's one of the biggest things that you take from there. I thought that was fun too, just kind of the Norm Stewart questions. And I wanted to use just this quote from Tamar Bates. Tamar was asked about, what does he kind of see that maybe, because Norm Stewart's still around the program, these guys have met him before. And so what do you kind of see from Norm Stewart in Coach Gates? And one of the biggest things he said was he's not going to sugarcoat anything. He's going to let you know what it is. And I feel like that's the reason why he gets the result that he does. And I thought that was a cool thing. He's going to give you constructive criticism. He's going to call you out when you need to. And I feel that was something that Caleb Grill and Tamar Bates kind of saw overlap between the two coaches.
Tamar Bates, just evolution as a leader from year 1 to year 2. I think we always knew he was a veteran guy and we knew what he could do on the court last year, but it is just, that guy being the voice of your program from a player's perspective, I think is such a big, really, really important asset for Mizzou. This team is in a really, really good spot. I thought this win was huge for them. I mean, we saw there were a lot of upsets in the SEC. I know this wouldn't have been an upset if Ole Miss had won it technically by the rankings, but you saw Vanderbilt win. They're clearly a legit team. You're seeing what was it, Texas A&M going down after leading wire to wire for pretty much the whole game. I think to pick up a win like this is super big. And now you kind of look ahead here. Missouri has a week off, and I think you guys will probably agree when you look ahead on their schedule. Feels like a week off at a pretty good time because you have 2 tough road games coming up. You're going to go down to Starkville, like I said at the top, to play Mississippi State on February 1st, noon on SEC Network, by the way. I'll remind you again before the game. But they'll play that game. Then they go to Thompson Bowling to play Tennessee, and then hosting that number 1 offensive rebounding team in the country, Texas A&M, at home in your next 3 games. Payton, I know you were complaining because the Big Ten plays on Sunday. We couldn't get any new bracketology stuff to talk about today. But, that aside from hypothetical fun tournament matchups, and just for both of you guys, I just have such a good feeling about this team right now. And obviously, it's going to say a lot about them, what they can get out of those next 3 games. But I feel like the break's coming at a good time. What's just your vibe of this team? Maybe Payton, feel free to throw in any Torvik net rating stats. I can't believe we've gone 22 minutes without mentioning any of them. I feel really good about where this team's at right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's impossible to feel anything other than just really happy with what this team has accomplished so far. They're still well ahead of where I thought they'd be in SEC play. God, that Florida win just does so much for them. It really does all go back to that Florida win. I think for just the progress they've shown. 5-2, I believe they're tied for 3rd in the SEC right now currently,
With
and they
those
have
Gators.
the tiebreaker over Florida, obviously. So they'd be the 3 seed if the SEC tournament was tomorrow, which is that blows my mind. It really does. So that, I mean, it's just really good. Like you said, the break is kind of coming at a perfect time because I don't think they have probably a harder 3-game stretch. I mean, on the road at Mississippi State, who, if you've watched one Mississippi State game, I mean, they're just ridiculously not fun to play against. Just a horribly, horribly suffocating defense they have. And now they've actually got offensive threats as well, unlike in year 1 under Chris Jans. Tennessee, they almost went into Auburn's house and knocked them off with Janai Broom coming back. Obviously, they're very tough, and it's on the road. And there's no DeAndre Golston, so I don't know if we can count on any of that magic. A&M is kind of the big swing game for me. I think if you win the A&M game, I think that's going to still have you well out in front of where you need to be. really at this point with 5 SEC wins, I think the magic number for Mizzou is probably just 3 to really have locked up a tournament spot. I don't really even care which 3. I think they're pretty much in at this point. And I think we're really I think we're getting close to the point where we can just worry about seeding more than anything else.
It's exciting. It's very exciting stuff. Kenny, you got anything on just your outlook for Mizzou?
They brought Joe Lenardi on a couple times during the SEC in studio broadcast yesterday, and he was saying Missouri probably never expected to be in this spot. Yeah, fans wise, I think the team is always going to have expectations for themselves. But yeah, I think they're surprising everyone. The program is just what they've kind of accomplished. They got kind of nitpicked a little bit for their non-conference play, but their ability to stick up with some of these big dogs that received higher ratings and just projected better than them at the beginning of the season has kind of just proven that Missouri is in a spot where they'll compete into March and into April. That's where Dennis Gates wants to be. He wants to be in San Antonio. He said that before. My last thing, we didn't talk about this. I just want to point out one last thing from what Dennis Gates talked about after the game, but he gave a lot of flowers to Payton Marshall, the freshman center. After that Texas game, Dennis Gates was walking into the locker room and Payton Marshall went up to him. He's like, I already said what we needed to say. And I think that's massive for the program. And it kind of goes back to that brotherhood, not having egos. Everyone's kind of on the similar playing field and fighting for the same goal. That a freshman is going out there, one that didn't even play in the game against Texas and was going, into the locker room and telling these guys, rally together. They saw it throughout the week in their practices and film sessions. And it was like Dennis Gates mentioned, it was almost like he was kind of living through Payton Marshall in that instance. And I think that's massive just moving forward for the program for a guy that young that recognized what he needed to do. And it really just came full circle this Saturday.
Yeah, great shout out. I'm hopeful for Payton Marshall as well individually, but clearly those leadership traits are there. So that's obviously nice to have those intangibles, and hopefully the improvement can follow suit as he goes through the rest of his freshman year. The stat I forgot to mention, I believe my math is right here. Missouri has 3 wins against AP top 16 teams. That's the third most in the SEC. Alabama has 4. Auburn has 6. So they're way out in front of that. But yeah, you're kind of in that tier. It's not a nothing schedule into lucking into wins. Clearly this team knew what it was doing, and it's knocked off some darn good teams. I mean, shoot, you're talking about the Florida win aging well. That Vanderbilt win's aging well at home. That team's good. Team's good. Knocking them off. They're gonna have to play them on the road too later on.
Yeah, Memorial is all of a sudden a place I really don't want to play.
Yeah, that's going to be kind of a shaky game. Georgia on the road might be a little tough there. I know they're 2-5 to start, but they're scrappy. But yeah, I'm loving where Mizzou's at right now. 3 really, really good defenses upcoming. These are going to be games that are going to test your mettle in terms of grit and things of that nature, because Tennessee's got an elite defense, and Ole Miss or Mississippi State and Texas A&M just play communism physical ball. So yeah, I'm excited for Mizzou's schedule upcoming. I think that we having the week off is nice, but this team's in a darn good spot. Tigers knock off Ole Miss 83-75, a ranked win. We'll see where they go up in the AP poll too. We're obviously recording this on a Sunday, so it hasn't come out yet. What quick prediction? Where do they land? We'll do that again.
In the AP, I think they stay neutral. I think they stay at 22.
Stay 22? Yeah. You don't think they rise at all, Kenny?
Well, they had a loss that week too.
That's true.
You can't just think about the Mississippi game. So I don't know if they crack 20, but I don't. You'd have to look at all the other teams too to see if anyone had any severe losses that would knock them out of the top 20, and see if Mizzou would just slip in automatically. But I think Payton's right.
I'll go 20. I'll go 20. Oh, and Statman Kenny also pointing out Mizzou's doubled its win total from last year. Insane.
15-0 at home.
Turnaround's insane. 15-0 at home. See if they can keep that going. Next home one's A&M on the 8th of February. So there you go. Mizzou beats Ole Miss. Big one for the Tigers going forward. And we will go forward with the rest of this show. Let's move on to quick hits, fellas. Finish it out. Okay, quick hits time. We'll finish out the show, and I will throw it to my good friend Kenny Van Doren for Ken Sports Shorts. Kenny, got a Ken Sports Shorts for us.
Pretty quick one this week. This guy's name has been thrown around a lot to me in the past couple months, so I thought I'd find a cool factoid about him. But in 1997, college football had a new award come across, and this was given out by the Maui Quarterback Club and the Hula Bowl. It was named after Mosi Tatapu, the former Patriot special teamer. You guys might have known or heard his name before, but he passed away in 2010. But in the 90s, they started. It only ran from 1997 to 2006, and it went to like college football's like best special teamer because this guy was known as the best special teamer. But the inaugural award went to a Missouri Tiger, and I want to know if you guys know who it is.
What year?
1997.
And a special teamer? Is it a kicker or a punter, or is it a long snapper?
Neither. It is
just a Matthew Slater type.
Matthew Slater. Yeah, it's weird. And the Patriots have always had like one long time special teamer.
Is this a guy I would know?
You both should know who he is, but Payton probably knows him. He's more well known to Payton.
Why is he more well known to me?
And he's a no. Did he went and did it in the NFL? Like he's same role, like a special teamer in the NFL.
Did he do more than just that?
Nah, he didn't really play long in the NFL.
Okay. Did he do more than just that on Mizzou? Like, was he also like a?
He only played from 1998 to 2002 in the NFL.
What did he play? Like, what was his actual position?
Well, I mean, he was a special teamer, but I mean, his primary position might have been like running back.
I don't know, Payton.
I
This is
don't
gonna
know.
have to be you. I'm stumped.
I have no
He's
idea.
he's a folk hero. Like people at the zoo love this guy.
Oh no, people are screaming at their computers right now.
He played for Mizzou from 1994 to 1997. He's from Washington, Missouri, right outside St. Louis. Was a Gatorade Player of the Year in the 90s. Don't look this up, Payton.
I want to see what years this guy played. I don't think it's correct.
Just say it.
I was gonna say, no, this is way off. I was gonna say Tony Temple. Tony Temple is way later.
What are his initials, Kenny?
B.O.
It's not Barry Odom.
Barry Odom.
I mean, that's
like,
the right era.
I mean, yeah, Barry
Similar
Odom
era.
would count. Yeah.
Is it Brock Olivo? I thought of
It is
Brock
Brock
Olivo right
Olivo.
away. Oh man,
Brock
that's
Olivo.
bad. I thought of Brock
Yeah.
Olivo immediately, and I was like, he didn't play back then.
So yeah, he won the first award in 1997. Some other notables on here. Wes Welker won it in 2003. Hawaii's Chad Owens won it in 2004, but 2006 was the last time they had the award.
Huh.
Wow,
We
they
should bring
gave
that
it
back.
up after that.
We
That's
should bring
lame.
that back. We got the low man trophy now. We need special teams award. That was a good quiz. Shout
Yeah,
out Brock
but
Olivo.
Brock's on staff now
was
with
gonna say.
Mizzou as a special teams assistant under Eric Link, and then just his name's been brought up a lot. And a lot of the guys that he played with in college at Mizzou, their sons are now being recruited by Mizzou. So there's still like some overlap there. Where a lot of these guys know who he is.
He'll be getting a shout out in a future quick hit. That's a good tease. Nice, Kenny. And with that, what's your Tiger in the Wild as well?
My Tiger in the Wild goes to the guys at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Mizzou football posted this, so did Eli Drinkwitz. But wide receivers coach Jacob Peeler, head coach Eli Drinkwitz, and OC and quarterbacks coach Kirby Moore went down to Denton to see some of these practices at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Mizzou has three guys, Theo Weiss, Brady Cook, and Johnny Walker there. Theo Weiss did break his hand in the Music City Bowl, so you can still see it in this photo. He has a brace on his hand. Doesn't look like he's playing at all. He wasn't in any pads in any of these posts. But there's Brady and Eli, and then Johnny Walker and Eli. Johnny Walker seemed to have a really great week of practices. The game's not until Thursday, so maybe we'll talk about it in Friday's show. But it's some explosive moves from Johnny Walker. People kept talking about popping the pads from here on KCSN Mizzou posting this one. But the second to last senior event that Mizzou will see guys in.
Yeah. Yeah, good
Very
luck
nice.
to them. Very wholesome.
I didn't
picture
realize
of,
they had three guys here. Like, obviously Theo's not playing, but very cool.
very wholesome picture of Brady and drink. Thought that was a fun selfie. Yeah, best of luck to those three. We'll talk about that on Friday's show. See how they do. Payton, similar vibes. What's your Tiger in the Wild this week?
My Tiger in the Wild, Tigers really, is going to be Armand Membu and Luther Burden. Um, Jack Knowlton in particular has been monitoring the mock drafts a lot. There's been a lot of Armand Membu and Luther Burden round one buzz, but I went with Daniel Jeremiah's first mock draft because he is very plugged in. He normally has a good vibe of what teams are thinking. I remember most notably like TJ Hawkinson was nowhere near round one draft buzz a few years ago. Then Daniel Jeremiah just randomly had him in there, and then it happened. So he has Armand Membu going all the way up at 11 to the 49ers. He calls him the most technically sound offensive lineman in the class. He thinks he'll be an exceptional guard. He has him being drafted as a guard, but can play tackle if needed. So all the way up at 11. Then he's got Luther going at 25 to Kenny. The fake Oilers, the Houston Texans. He's got Luther Burden going there. The Texans are getting a new offensive coordinator. He says this is an interesting comp. Daniel Jeremiah compares Luther to Stephon Diggs. That's really interesting because I always remember Stephon Diggs kind of being renowned for his route running. That's not what I would say is Luther Burden's strength, but still cool. Kenny, would you get a Luther Burden jersey?
I think about it. I think this kind of takes me back to that quote I gave you guys about one of the new Mizzou signees who went to the same high school as Stephon Diggs, and they were talking about how he's like the best punt returner he's seen. And I was like, the first thing that came to mind is like Stephon Diggs and Luther Burden both being punt returners. And Luther Burden wasn't always the best punt returner, especially near the end. So that was what came to mind for me. This would be pretty crazy. I think one of the biggest things that over the past couple of years, like the teams that always kind of sat near the top on like Luther Burden mocks, even before he was draft eligible, was like Cowboys, Panthers, getting him into
Titans.
San Francisco Titans, getting San Francisco to be with Debo. I never saw the Texans, so this is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, this would be hype. I would love this for both those guys. I love the Armand buzz. It's very like someone asked me organically the other day. He's a Patriots fan and was like looking around and like he was like, "Is he legit good?" And I was like, "Yes." I went immediately to Armand Membu's defense. So I love all the buzz he's been getting. Yeah, I love looking at mock drafts. So I will definitely continue to monitor. Maybe I'll have to make like a tracker of like who puts the Mizzou players where and see like which teams get the most votes. And then, we look back at it when they actually get drafted. But yeah, hopefully Mizzou can have 2 first rounders. That'd be so much fun. And obviously great for the program as we've talked about. So yeah, we'll keep monitoring draft stuff. My Tiger in the Wild is going to go to Christian Cantwell. I read this article. I'm not sure who wrote it. But Christian Cantwell,
Some goof.
Yeah, some bozo on the Mizzou beat probably. But Christian Cantwell, if you don't know the name, he's an Olympian, and he actually went to Mizzou in the early 2000s, was a track and field star, shot put guy, competed in the 2008 Olympics, and, trained for that while I believe he was in school. So, yeah, pretty cool. He got honored at the basketball game against, I almost said Kansas. He got honored at the basketball game against Ole Miss. I got the Kansas game eternally in my mind. So, yeah, pretty cool honor for a former Mizzou kind of track star, also an Olympian, and went to Mizzou. Oh, and by the way, his son is Jackson Cantwell, the number 1 player in 2026, and he was at the game. So there's another bonus fact in there for you. But yeah, shout out to Christian Cantwell. It is pretty insane, Jackson. I'm glad he's living up because I believe his mother was an Olympian too. So I'm glad he's living up to their kind of superstar athlete genes. So there you go. But shout out to Christian Cantwell. Hopefully Mizzou can continue to stay near the top of his son's recruitment as well. Do you want to weigh in on this offer?
Yeah. He didn't come to the Mizzou Junior Day, Jackson that is, but he still got an opportunity to kind of go around campus. I'm going to mention actually one of my quick hits right after this, but they had a track and field meet, and he is still a shot putter. Like, schools probably want him to throw shot put too, and good thing to just stay fit and stay what he's doing. And I think even Jack Lang brought it up to me at the All-American Bowl that he's aiming for second at state this year because he's not going to beat Jackson Cantwell. I think he kind of agreed with himself that he wasn't going to do that. So Jackson still got to go around. He even was honest with me. He's been to campus 5 times as a recruit. He lived on campus when his dad was training to be an Olympian and do shot put professionally. So he's seen everything, but this time around he did get to see the new indoor facility for track and field during that meet. And then they took him to see the freshman dorm, the new freshman apartments. And so that was really cool for him. He spent most of the time with Evan Boehm, former Missouri offensive lineman, and Brock Olivo. So that's what kind of made me think about Brock Olivo.
I wanted to let you do that part of the shout out. Yeah.
So you got to talk with Drinkwitz, talk with those 2 guys. Like I said, those are 2 guys that almost, overlapped with Jackson's dad, just kind of missing each other by a couple years. But Brandon Jones will be in to visit him on Tuesday. At Nixa. Drinkwitz saw him like he said, 2 days into the early contact period in early January. So this will be Brandon Jones's time to kind of reconnect with him and get to hang out with him again.
A recruitment we will be monitoring closely.
To say the least.
The younger Cantwell. But yeah, his dad was an insane athlete. So there you go. Headlines this week. Kenny, go right back to you. Your headline.
Yeah, I caught a lot. I wouldn't say I caught some flack for this when I was at the Missourian, but my first beat when I was there, I was covering track and field and cross country as well as Hickman. And during this time, someone just reached out to me. I'm not going to say who, and said, hey, the track and field team can't host any championship level events because it just doesn't meet the standard. I didn't know that. It's just even the outdoor track probably needs a renovation still, but the indoor one didn't have a bank track, which is one that's, at an angle. You do it a lot more for those 200-meter tracks. I loved running on those, and you need those at a competition level or competing level because that's what they want. And so I posted an article about it with quotes, from people, and the school kind of, didn't come after me, but they came and wanted me to do a second follow-up one about how they're trying to change things. They're trying to make it better. And Coach Halter finally got it. The track and field coach. He's been the track and field coach for a long time now. But they got the renovations done and they had their first meet there with the new indoor facility that Jackson got to go see. So definitely a step in the right direction for a program at Missouri that probably just didn't have too much funding over the past decade or so.
Yeah, shout out. That is good news. Kenny, you started the chain of events.
Tidal wave, yeah.
The coverage.
It only took 3 years. I'm just kidding. But I did write that in 2022.
He's holding them accountable. But yeah, good for track. I mean, it's obviously you want your SEC school live up to the standards of track required to host stuff. The outdoor one needs, at least the last time I was on it, could use a reno as well.
I remember when I was doing research about this, when I was writing my article, I found stuff about the outdoor track as well. And they were saying they were out there and it was melting. That's just how bad it was. And that was the first time it got renovated, in the early 2000s, near 2010 times. And it just needs to be changed. I've ran track and field and cross country in high school. Those tracks don't last forever. You're running with metal spikes on them. You tear them up over time.
Yeah, gotta renovate it. But good for MU track to start to get that on track. Oh my God, I didn't mean to do that. Get that on track. But Payton, you have a headline, or am I doing my headline first? My headline's on the screen, Kenny.
Looks like Kenny's got a goof up.
Oh, Kenny.
Up.
Producer
Boo.
Kenny.
Boo. There's my headline.
Payton, what's your headline?
A brief look at our behind-the-scenes script. My headline is going to be Jawan Roberts scores 24 and number 7 Houston downs number 12 Kansas 92-86 in double OT. Folks, if you did not see this game, it was quite the meltdown from the Kansas Jayhawks at Allen Fieldhouse. First of all, Kansas fouled Jawan Roberts when they were up 2 with 12 seconds left. Roberts sank both to force OT. In overtime, Kansas looked like they had it won. Dejuan Harris, maybe people in the Mizzou circles recognize that name. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they do. He was going to the line in OT with 18 seconds and Kansas up 6. It's over, right? Wrong. Dejuan Harris misses both free throws. Houston goes down and nails a really crazy 3. And then Kansas just had another meltdown. Bill Self calls timeout to drop an inbounds pass. Doesn't matter. Houston forces the turnover. They get a crazy clutch 3-pointer, 6 points in 6 seconds. They go to double OT. Houston dominates the second overtime, and they go into Allen Fieldhouse and come away with the win. Houston is now 8-0 in the Big 12. They run that conference now, legitimately. It is Houston's conference. Kansas falls to 5-3 in conference, 14-5 on the season. AJ Storr, their big transfer portal addition, put up offers across the board. It's just been kind of a messy year for Kansas since they fell to Mizzou.
Yeah, the Tigers derailed their season. Love it.
Yeah.
Ultimate meltdown for Kansas. Yeah, this is a crazy game. Go watch it. Instant classic, a classic Big 12, just top schools showdown. It is crazy how Houston has just come in that conference and instantly become the best team in it. They are really, really good. Yeah. KU, you lose to Mizzou, your whole season gets derailed. There you go. Yeah, we'll see how they do. We'll see how they do going forward. My headline comes from an ESPN article. It reads, I'm going NFL here. We're completely changing the tune. My headline, how Dan Snyder views Commanders title run from afar, : he ... hates it. That ... is filling an expletive, of course. This is a really good read on ESPN. I believe it's free. I don't think it's an ESPN Plus article. So if you like the NFL, go read it. It was just kind of a behind the scenes of, they kind of tracked down some confidants of Dan Snyder, who, of course, if you don't know that name, owned the Washington Commanders before the new people, and had a really, really ugly exit. There is a crazy part in this article where basically he essentially on the day of the sale refused to hand the keys to the stadium over. The new ownership group was trying to throw a party that day, and he refused. He said it's trespassing. I think his quote was, "It's still mine." He was acting like just a kid, trying to, I don't know, keep a hold of some bullshit thing. But it's a $1 billion team that he wouldn't hand over. He's totally bitter about them going to the NFC Championship game. We're recording this before that, by the way, so I don't know if they won, but he's just totally bitter about the whole thing. It's a really fun read at just the collapse of a guy who this was his childhood team too, and he completely bungled the ownership of it. And if you haven't read it, I would go read it. It was just a very fun. I don't know if y'all have any thoughts, but hilarious read.
Yeah, I did read it. I mean, none of it's surprising. Dan Snyder, I mean, while he was there, was pretty much openly regarded as the worst owner in sports. So no surprise that that's kind of how the exit went. And obviously, I mean, it took one real year after he was gone for things to kind of flip.
Yeah, that's it. That's a crazy thing for me. Go ahead, Kenny.
Yeah. The one thing I saw, and it was just kind of funny. I saw a reply to it asking, was this the same guy that was on Nickelodeon? That had all the issues of Nickelodeon. And I was like, oh man.
Also a bad,
yeah. Hard to have the last name Snyder these days.
Also not a good look.
Snyder.
Not great. Yeah, not a great last name. Representative, but yeah, this was a fun read. It's just insane how much a person can act like a child, and we're talking about multi-million billion-dollar sales of football teams. And yeah, every owner hated him. He was the least liked guy ever. Yeah. Anyway, go read it. I again, we were recording this before the NFC Championship game, so it'd be, I guess, a sweet moment if the Commanders beat the Eagles and go to the Super Bowl. But you'll know that before we do. Anyway, not Payton. What am I talking about? Or Kenny, whoever wants to read it. We got a ratio this week. What do we got?
I kind of just stumbled upon this one, but Kayla Smith, who's a Mizzou graduate as well, posted this one. Didn't get much interaction, but I still found it. But she tweeted that the Cowboys are getting ratioed to high hell on their own head coach announcement. This was from Facebook. There was 18.6 thousand interactions, and 6.7 of them were kind of that laughing face where you kind of go, and
please go watch on the YouTube.
Only people on the YouTube saw that. 5.1 angry faces, 4.8 thousand just thumbs up, 791 of looks like maybe a depression.
I think it's the one tier,
one crying, crying oh, and then the whoa emoji got 646.
It's a really good demonstrations of these emojis. So I guess the ratio is that there's more angry faces than likes.
I don't think it's angry. I think it's that too, but the laughing one. The laughing one.
The second one. There's
the angry
5.1K angry ones.
This might be higher too.
11,000 not supporting, most likely, against 5,000 supporting.
Thank you, Payton.
And she posted this on Friday, so it might even be worse.
Yeah, we have to check it. We don't have the Facebook. We're an X.com, the everything app show, I guess. Yeah.
Like Meta.
Meta. Yeah, that was bad hire. That was a bad hire.
Phoning in higher.
Payton, you must be so excited that the Bears didn't do that. Something like that.
This one comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show. Guys, what do you call birds that stick together?
A flock.
No.
That is technically
That's actually like true. Like,
right.
that's the
Yeah.
answer. That's the correct answer.
This
Well,
what you
this
call
is a
them.
joke.
Birds that stick together. I don't know.
Velcros.
I don't like it because there is a word for it, like a real term.
Well, it's a joke. Play along, Jack.
All right. That'll do it for the unwritten rule.
Back in the Jackie bunch.
Thanks for watching, listening. If you're listening on the Spotify, please go watch at least the last 5 minutes of that to see Kenny's recreation of those emojis, because it is cinema. We'll be back Friday. We'll look ahead, obviously, to the Mississippi State game. No midweek game for Mizzou men's basketball. So enjoy the week off. Everyone relax, because you're going to have to watch some sicko defense ball for their next 3 games. So just get yourself strapped in, prepared for that. But we'll have some any updates from the week, and we'll look ahead to Mississippi State for Friday's show. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Okay, bye-bye. Been solo screen again. Okay, bye-bye again.